Mr. Elliot, I will not tolerate that kind of behavior in my court.
I apologize on behalf of my client, my lord.
I would have thought you had had time to instruct the defendant that outbursts of that kind can do no good to his case whatsoever.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. Please remain there, Mr. Bell.
How long have you been a night watchman, Mr. Bell?
5 years, sir.
And what were you before that?
A joiner.
Why did you switch jobs?
It was when I retired.
I see. Are you retired at what, 60?
Yes, sir.
Well, I can understand you're being scared stiff when the explosion occurred. Everything dead quiet, then a bang as loud as that coming from almost next door. I'm looking at the ground plan, and I can see your tea room, which is marked. Now, you say you hit the deck, waited a few moments, and then you rushed outside.
Yes, sir.
You rushed outside.
Lord, my friend is offering his own words to the witness and then implying the other witness's own.
I ran into the yard, I'm sorry. You ran outside.
Yes, sir.
I take it you were wearing the glasses you have on at present?
Well, yes.
Forgive me, Mr. Bell. I just want to get the picture clear in my mind. Now, you say you hit the deck, waited, and then you ran outside.
I wanted to see what was going on.
Were you wearing those glasses? Mr. Bell, I've noticed you have to keep pushing them back on your nose. They don't seem to fit very well.
Oh, the spring is loose.
I'm just wondering if they might have fallen off when you dropped to the floor, and that in your hurry to run out and see what had caused the explosion, you might have left them behind.
I don't remember.
You see, Mr. Bell, at 7 o'clock on March 10th last, it was quite dark. At 6:30, the overhead lights to the building are turned off, leaving only a few scattered night lamps burning. Now, that's right, isn't it?
I saw them two in the yard.
How far were you from them?
20 yards, maybe less.
20 yards. Did you hear them speak?
No, sir.
Yet you seem so positive one was a man and the other a woman.
I may be 65, but I can still tell the difference.
Well, I'm not quite 65, Mr. Bell, but I confess sometimes I find it hard to tell the difference. Especially on a dark night. Even more especially if I saw two people shin up and disappear over a wall in a few seconds. And if, to add to everything, I were not wearing my spectacles...
The witness said he could not recall if you were wearing them, my lord.
I did say if, my lord.
It was them, all right.
Mr. Bell, thinking back a month before the explosion, were you not involved in a student demonstration outside the offices of IWS?
Well, not involved, really. I wouldn't say that.
I didn't catch that, nor I think did the members of the jury.
I believe the reply was not really, my lord.
Would you be a little more specific?
Well, there was a crowd of long-haired yobbos running, yelling and ranting. Yes, I just told them to clear off.
Oh, you did say a little more than that, didn't you, Mr. Bell?
I can't remember.
Well, didn't you say something like, if I had my way, you bloody nits would be put away and left to rot?
My lord, really?
My lord, the defendant has made no secret of the fact that for some time he and his friends have picketed the headquarters of IWS because of their disapproval of a periodical published by that organization. They consider it to be reactionary and an inflammatory magazine. Now, both defendants have in the past taken part in peaceful demonstrations against that organization. What they deny most strongly is that they were party to an act of violence against the company or were present when such an act took place. Mr. Bell, did you say something like that?
Give them freedom. All they want to do is to overthrow the country. It's diabolical. They get away with murder these days.
I put it to you, Mr. Bell, that most certainly you saw someone or some persons running from the scene of the explosion, but you can't be sure it was Mr. Luckhurst and Miss Sawyer. All you are sure of is that because of a personal antagonism towards them and people like them, you would like to see them punished for it. Now, that's right, isn't it?
It was them. I'm not lying. It was. Well, what about the police? Look what they found.
That will do. You will ignore that last remark. Please confine yourself to the questions that are put to you.
Thank you, Mr. Bell.
And Lord, unless you have any questions. Thank you, Mr. Bell. That will be all. I should like to call Dr. John Gold. What is your religion?
Anglican.
Right, will you take the book and swear the oath, please?
I swear by Almighty God that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Thank you.
Doctor, would you state your name and qualifications, please?
John Raymond Gold, Doctor in Forensic Medicine attached to the Home Office. I hold a PhD from the Oxford University, and during the past 5 years I've made a special study of explosive devices and have also closely examined the refractive qualities of glass.
Doctor, would you tell the court the results of your investigation into the explosion at IWS on March the 10th last?
In accordance with my duties, I examined the premises of IWS, which had suffered from an explosion.
And what did you find?
The remnants of a homemade bomb, which worked on a time control mechanism. The pieces were found embedded in the outer wall of the west wing of the building. The manner in which they were found is consistent with the theory that they were part of an explosive device strategically placed in the most vulnerable section of the office wall with the purpose of blowing it up.
Doctor, would you now look at those pieces marked Exhibit 2?
These are the remains I found, yes.
Can you identify the original use to which some of these metal pieces were put?
Yes, they are pieces of a cheap alarm clock. They've been adapted to form the timing mechanism which delays the action of the detonator.
Now, would you look at the pair of rubber plimsolls marked Exhibit 3? Are these the plimsolls you subsequently examined on behalf of the police?
Yes.
Would you tell the court of your findings?
I discovered several splinters of glass embedded in the soles and heels of both shoes.
Dr. Gold, did you take glass fragments from the shattered window of IWS?
Yes.
Will you look at the bag marked Exhibit 4 and tell the court whether it contains those fragments?
It does, yes.
Have you examined the fragments?
I have.
And what were your conclusions?
The splinters of glass taken from the plimsolls comes from the same batch as the glass from the windows.
Members of the jury, you will hear evidence that these plimsolls were found by the police officers on the premises where the occupants were arrested by the police. Dr. Gold, thank you. Would you remain there?
Are those plimsolls marked with the name of the owner, Dr. Gold?
No.
Now, when you say that the glass particles found in them are part of the same batch as the glass in the IWS window, does that mean that they have to come from there?
Well, no, not have to.
Does glass carry a unique quality, like perhaps a fingerprint, making it unarguable that one piece belongs to the next?
There are certain characteristics of glass which make it possible to assert that two separate pieces were part of one whole, yes.
Possible, but not conclusive.
Not conclusive.
Now, the parts of the bomb you mentioned came from a cheap alarm clock.
Yes.
I take it cheap means the type of alarm clock that can be bought anywhere?
Yes.
By anyone?
Yes.
Now, with this type of bomb, that is the one based on the mechanism of an alarm clock, what is the maximum delay to the detonator that can be made?
12 hours.
And yet we heard from the night watchman on duty that he saw two people running from the scene of the explosion only seconds after it occurred. Now, is that not strange? That if, for example, these two persons had been responsible for placing the bomb, that it should go off within minutes while they were still on the site? Thank you, Dr. Gold.
Doctor, can you give us any reason why the detonator might have gone off at the end of a period shorter than 12 hours?
It might have been set intentionally or by mistake for a shorter time, a minute, 5 minutes, an hour. Another explanation is that it may have malfunctioned.
By malfunction, you mean that it may have gone off before it was meant to?
Yes. It is my experience that bombs are just as likely to kill those who make them as those against whom they are directed.
Thank you, Doctor.
Just one question, Doctor. You stated earlier on that the bomb was strategically placed in the most vulnerable part of the office wall.
Yes, my lord.
Would that suggest that those who placed it there You are not as amateur as one might suppose.
My lord, a person of above average intelligence would not find it hard to work out where the main supports of the building were situated and put the bomb there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Call Detective Inspector Roberts.
Detective Inspector Roberts.
I swear by Almighty God, the evidence I shall give to this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Detective Inspector Philip Roberts, CID, attached to Q Division, Fulchester.
Inspector, would you describe the circumstances leading up to your arrest of the accused?
Yes, sir. As a result of police inquiries on March the 14th this year, I applied for and received a search warrant to investigate premises situated at 68 Brownlow Gardens, Fulchester. Accompanied by Detective Sergeant Smithson, I proceeded to the said premises where we found Trevor Luckhurst and Jill Sawyer. After showing them the signed search warrant, Sergeant Smithson and I made a thorough search of the house.
And what did you find?
In one bedroom, we found pieces from 2 alarm clocks. In another, a pair of plimsolls, later examined by forensics and found to contain particles of glass, consistent with that found in the IWS building in the wrecked area. We also found a series of letters written by Luckhurst and Sawyer to each other. On examination, these letters were found to contain several references to International Worldwide Spectrum Organization, and in 2 of them, recommendations to break into the building. These items were collected and entered as evidence.
The case of the Queen versus Luckhurst and Sawyer continues tomorrow in the Crown Court.